Wow, well, that's very interesting. Another exciting episode from Fantasy News. Yeah, it's not real, not anything to worry about whatsoever, but I've just been reading this amazing prediction for a planet that's in this newspaper that tells me things that might or might not be happening over there. Not here, of course, not in the world that we live in. But I just thought I might share some of that with you because it was well, it's quite profound, really. So what they were talking about, this completely made up story that's in this newspaper that I get regularly now that gives me, silly ideas. It was about a planet, and on this planet you had all these different countries minding their own business, getting on, farming and having little businesses. There was somebody there with some cows, and they were all having a nice time milking the cows and things. And then there was a blacksmith who was putting shoes on the horses, and everybody was, sort of getting on with the community. There was the squire who was making sure everybody was all right and everything was nice, and it was all very benign. And then there were various representatives from each of these different countries, according to this made-up story, of course, that would get together. And these were quite rich and prominent people who'd sort of had their day, but weren't really happy that they'd had their day and wanted to have a bit more influence on the place. And they'd made stinking loads of money, and they really didn't know what to do with it because they bought these great big boats and yachts and very fast cars, that sort of thing. And they played with those toys to the end of their patience and thought, actually, wouldn't it be fun to play God? And so they all got together and they said, let's all be gods. Because, back in old days, in olden times, people used to believe in all these old gods, didn't they? Let's do a bit of that. Yeah, that's a good fun game to play, where we could actually tell people how to run their lives. We can make them a bit miserable if we like. We can contain them in little cities and in little environments, maybe put walls up around them, curtail how they move about, that sort of thing. Oh, what a brilliant idea that is, they all said, getting together. Of course, the rest of the population, all the sovereign people, they were pretty much unaware of that. Although these people who wanted to play gods were very clever because they would actually tell them what they were going to do. They would sort of make little videos and put them out on the equivalent of what we have over here is social media. But whatever it is on this planet, this made-up planet that I'm talking about, which is complete fiction, I should say, and nowhere near representative to anything that we have, they had these videos coming out, and they were these people saying, oh yes, we're going to sort of centralise the bank, and we're going to sort of keep them in the cities, and we're going to pretend that the planet is about to explode at any time, and so we really want them to use less energy and things like that, those sort of unlikely things that we could possibly imagine happening in our world. Well, then it got a little bit more sinister, because not just happy with doing that and containing people and forcing them to use less energy and freeze in the winter and all those sort of things, they thought, wouldn't it be great if all their independent countries, all the countries with their independent sovereignty, we could somehow take that away. And so representatives of these countries, rather sly and nasty, reprehensible representatives of these countries, would ensure that they managed to get each individual nation to sign to a special secret document which would basically give away all their sovereignty. Can you imagine something so horrible and sinister and nasty? Thank God that's the product of somebody else's imagination in a newspaper that has nothing to do with where we live. But it got worse. It got worse because these gods thought, now that we've got the sovereignty, we could control the health of that nation by mandating whatever we like. We can tell each of those individual countries how to behave if there was some awful pestilence that might be visiting. A plague of locusts might come, and if this plague of locusts, say, that were targeted to the children, for example, because, children are nice and cuddly with big eyes and big bubbly smiles. Wouldn't it be lovely, seeing as we're a bunch of nasty, evil sort of made-up characters in this story I'm talking about, we're able to target, say, just the children and then say, I know, we've got a remedy, and if everybody takes the remedy, you'll be saving the children. And everybody wants to save the children, don't they? Yeah, of course. So everybody took that. Of course, that remedy wasn't quite what it was made out to be, actually. And all of a sudden, those people who'd taken the remedy found that their hands got very, very big, their ears started to fall off, their nose was dribbling in all sorts of green pus. Rather horrible. And so all these people became rather invalided and actually eventually just curled up and died. It was a great way to sort of reduce the population of that planet. It was a very clever little system that these godlike people were organising. So that was the story that I've been reading in this completely made up nonsense that's in here. I mean, thank God we don't live in a world in which anyone would sell our sovereignty and enable somebody else to dictate to us how our health policy was. That would be awful, particularly if they had the ability to, let's say, get the army or the police to ensure that their policy, which wouldn't be the sovereign people's policy, was carried out. Anyway, I'm glad that's all just complete nonsense and made up stuff and nothing for us to worry about. Otherwise, I would be worried about carrying on living on this planet, wouldn't you?